Back in 2007, the cost of Chinese labor was lower than that of Thailand or the Philippines, and significantly cheaper than Malaysia, amounting to only $1. However, over the past 15 years, wages have risen almost everywhere. Nevertheless, China has experienced an unparalleled increase in labor costs, with prices rising from $1 to $8 in just last month. In comparison, 1 hour of Chinese labor can now buy 4.5 hours of labor in Mexico, while Chile being the only major Latin American economy with a higher labor cost. Consequently, Chinese-made products are no longer regarded as cheap globally, but rather as expensive. The question that arises is, what lies ahead for the world's factory? While you may be familiar with China's one-child policy, you may not be aware of what led up to it. Mao Zedong believed that a large population was the most effective defense against a nuclear war. During his last visit to Moscow, the chairman boasted about China's ability to lose 300 million people with ease. Consequently, although children were considered valuable as free farm labor in any agricultural society, China enshrined this incentive into law. Families were awarded points based on their size, which could then be exchanged for food. As a result, the population expectedly exploded. Fast forward 30 years to the year 2000, and China's population has reached unprecedented levels. Interestingly, for anyone seeking to unleash an infinite stream of low-priced electronics and clothing onto the world, China in the early 2000s had a demographic structure that could hardly have been more ideal. In essence, the production of your affordable iPhone 3G was a distant effect of Mao Zedong's strategy from the 1960s to ensure survival in the event of a nuclear war. Migration was the second key component that contributed to the production of the expensive, mass-produced consumer goods that we take for granted today. The baby boomers, who were born in rural communes located in China's equivalent of Montana, needed to relocate to urban coasts to reap the benefits of industrialization. Between 1990 and 2010, 10 million new migrants made the journey each year, bringing with them a fresh-faced perspective. Given this rate, it is difficult to imagine a scenario where labor becomes scarce anytime soon. Despite the impressive figures, China was undergoing a demographic transition that is similar to every other nation. In the first phase, the society is agricultural, and without the assistance of tractors, harvesters, or sprinklers, there is only enough food to survive if anyone is involved in farming. Children are valuable sources of free labor on farms, but in the absence of modern medicine, life expectancy is low, resulting in a high birth rate and death rate. This was the situation in China during the Cultural Revolution. In the next stage, rudimentary machines are built, allowing a single farmer to produce rice for more than one person. This development frees up time for others to focus on things like antibiotics, which reduces mortality rates. However, fertility remains high, and this was the situation in China during the 1970s and 1980s. As more farmers move to the cities, children become more of an economic burden than an asset, causing fertility rates to decline. To simplify the scenario, let's consider three age groups: children, adults, and seniors. Mortality rates were previously high, resulting in fewer individuals aged 80 or 90. As a result of the high fertility rates, there is now a large number of adults in the population. However, due to the low fertility rates in recent times, there are fewer children in the population. This situation presents a golden opportunity, referred to as a demographic dividend, where there are many working-age adults and few dependents to support financially. If these working-age adults are employed productively, the country can progress rapidly towards modernization. This is precisely what China did, but the country's demographic dividend occurred over a relatively short period and is now collapsing rapidly. Before Mao's death in 1976, he was striving to expand the population as fast as possible, which resulted in the entry of a large number of baby boomers into the labor market 3 decades later. However, Soon after Mao's death, the one-child policy was implemented, making high fertility unlawful. As a result, today, the labor market is shrinking rapidly. While kids may not be of much economic value, for the past decades, only diaper manufacturers have felt the impact of this lack of children. But today, these kids have grown up, and their absence means a scarcity of labor. The group of individuals aged 25 to 34 years old in 2000, which amounted to millions of people, are now reaching the age of 53 and heading towards retirement. What was once a beautiful demographic for China has now become a disadvantage. It's worth noting that China's current population is at its youngest point, and it will most likely never be this young again in our lifetime. If you are currently 20 years old and live until you are 90, it is feasible to expect that you will see a decline in China's total population by approximately 40%. According to economists, China is approaching the Lewis turning point, meaning the level of urbanization can only increase to a maximum of 100%. The total number of Chinese workers peaked in 2015 and has decreased every year, except one since then. As the labor force of China continues to shrink, companies are faced with three choices. If a company's primary market is in China, it may choose to remain. However, if it does not operate in China, it must determine if it requires skilled labor. If the answer is no, the company likely left China a long time ago, since there is no incentive to pay significantly higher wages when alternative options, such as Mexico, are available, particularly given its close proximity to American customers. For instance, Nike produces only 21% of its footwear in China. Despite the shrinking labor force, China's consumer market remains sizable and relatively unexplored. Consequently, businesses such as Starbucks, Walmart, and McDonald's will likely to continue to expand their operations in China rather than reducing them for the foreseeable future. This is a typical pattern for companies. In the past, China's large working-age population helped maintain low labor costs, leading to the increased profits for businesses. Companies, confident in China's sustained growth, reinvested their profits back into the country. However, as the population ages and declines, foreign investment is also decreasing. This poses a significant challenge for China, as its labor is not competitive on the low end due to higher wages and lacks the necessary skills for the high end. This situation is commonly referred to as the middle income trap, and the only solution is to focus on education. Enhanced skills lead to higher salaries, which, in turn, increase consumption on items such as cars, phones, and vacations, thus replacing lost investments. China has made significant strides in the field of education, with college enrollment increasing threefold from 2000 to 2015. The Gaokao, or college entrance exam, is more than just a score. It has become a defining aspect of a student's identity. Moreover, the competition for after-school tutoring has become so fierce that the government was compelled to step in. Education has become a fundamental aspect of Chinese society, to the point where it could be regarded as a de facto state religion. In China, the issue with education is not necessarily a scarcity of educated individuals, but rather an unequal distribution of knowledge. While a small percentage of the population is highly educated, the majority of citizens are left behind. While China produces a significant number of bachelor's, graduates, and professional degrees, a staggering 70% of its population lacks even a high school education. Consequently, the country requires a system that fills the educational gap between these two extremes. Even low-skill jobs in China's factories require a level of expertise than those with a high school education may lack. Furthermore, there are only a limited number of coveted white-collar tech jobs that Chinese college graduates were promised. Therefore, a significant portion of the labor force either lacks the necessary skills required to work as mechanics, machine workers, or technicians, or are reluctant to perform what they consider to be unskilled labor. Consequently, this results in mass unemployment, with the youth unemployment rate reaching almost 20% last year. Since at least 2007, China has attempted to address these issues. The country shifted towards a consumption-driven economy after Wen Jiabo's announcement, but has made limited progress since then. For instance, Chinese household consumption still accounts for approximately half of the GDP of the US or the UK. For years, the rise of China was considered a near inevitability. Magazine covers depicted giant dragons smothering the globe. Book covers portrayed red, white, and blue eagles being trampled by giant red pandas. Increasingly, however, these predictions resemble the anxious, motivated, and sometimes xenophobic portrayals of the Japanese economy in the 1980s. Will this setback in the country's labor force ruin its projected Titanic takeover? Comment your thoughts below. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with our latest uploads.